This is Advisor 3.0, a show designed to help you as a financial advisor elevate your professional practice, transform your clients' lives, and take your business to the next level. I am Abraham Okusoya. Welcome to the show. According to the FCA, only 17% of financial advisors are women. In case you haven't noticed, they make up half the population. My guest today is on a mission to change that, bringing more women into advice, both as clients and financial planners. I'm talking about none other than Samantha Secomb, who is a chartered financial planner and the founder of Women's Wealth, an innovative financial advice and coaching service that specializes on empowering women to create fabulous financial futures for themselves. Samantha, welcome to the podcast.
It's a great pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Samantha, do you mind, giving us a background of your journey into financial planning?
Oh, it would take too long, really. But, suffices to say that very, very much like many financial planners who have got my level of experience, 30 years in industry and profession, I started in sales. I learned to be a mortgage advisor for that. It's called General Accident Property Services. Huh. Who would call a business General Accident? You would not get away with it these days, would you? But GA Property Services, that was when insurance companies went through a phase of believing they could be estate agents. And they went around buying up all the estate agents. And then all the people who sold their estate agents for a shed load of money to insurance companies then brought them back again 5 years later when they worked out they couldn't run estate agent practices, that it took a whole load of local knowledge. And I think we see a consolidation thing happening again right now, and it will deconsolidate again because you can't do that to businesses. You need the people and you need kind of specialist knowledge at specialist levels, and they worked that out eventually. But in the meantime, I got trained as a mortgage advisor. I did work out that I didn't really want to just be selling mortgages. I found investments fascinating. I started to study. I got a job as a broker consultant for Legal and General, which introduced me to IFAs and taught me about how they operate. And I got to go around lots of different businesses and see how they were running. And then, I wanted to be one. So I became an independent financial advisor. I did a stint with what was Towery Law then. I think it probably still is around, isn't it? And then I joined an accountancy-owned IFA practice, made director with them. Big shout out to a mentor at the time, Len Clark, who introduced me to professional qualifications. He was a member of the Institute of Financial Planning. And introduced me to the CFP qualification. I eventually became chartered. I currently choose the CII as my professional body. I'm an IFA. I brought a business back in 2015 from an accountancy firm who didn't want to run it anymore. And my son, Oliver, Ollie, he followed me into the profession. So he's one of those 30-something-year-old chartered financial planners who actually knew when he left school he wanted to be a financial advisor, couldn't get to do a degree course that qualified him, so he had to do a banking and finance one and then do his certificate qualifications during his kind of study time, during his holiday time. And he joined me in the practice. He went and worked somewhere else first. We did decide that until he was qualified and experienced, we probably shouldn't work together. We needed to work with each other rather than anything else. So he went off and worked for a couple of other businesses, and eventually we got together and we're doing our thing. He now runs Pentins Financial Planners, and I have got to spend some of my time building the new practice, which is Women's Wealth. So
Wonderful, wonderful. That's quite a fascinating journey. So tell us a little bit about pensions. We'll come back to women's wealth because when I met you, I think it was a few years ago now. I don't know, 2 years, and we got to speak at the PFS conference. My thought was, wow, she's got this great business, pensions doing well, but you aren't satisfied with that, and women's well. So tell us a little bit about pensions, and then we'll come back to women's well.
Yeah, Pentins is as a traditional IFA practice born out of an accountancy firm, cooperating with accountants. They, at one time, if you wanted a pension, your accountant sorted it out for you, didn't they? And that's
Right.
how they started, and they built up a client bank. But then by the time they were regulated by different people, and the two professions diverged really, then they kind of wanted to sell it off. So we bought it. We still cooperate with accountants. That's what we're good at. And yeah, it's a baby boomer aged client bank of people who are moderately wealthy, not mega wealthy. The average assets under management per client in pensions is around about the 300,000 mark. Lots of people either in decumulation or estate planning with their pensions, that sort of thing. And it's a lovely business. And I think one of the really important points about Pentins is that Ollie and I own and run it. And I think when you've got an owner-run business, you prioritise the environment you work in and the people you work with as much as you do the outcome for clients. And you create a three-legged stool, which is nicely balanced. How your distributors and your staff are looked after, how your clients are looked after, and how the shareholders are looked after. And that kind of nice balanced outcome is what we have at Pentins. It's a lovely business to work for. Clients are always very complimentary. You know what it's like. Traditional financial planning firms never lose clients. Our clients die. They don't. And we're working hard at being attractive to the next generation. And I think part of the journey for Pentins is recognizing that actually converting the existing business to appeal to a new generation is really quite hard. Whereas actually Women's Wealth, fresh start, new image, different way of doing it, different messaging, different attitude, different way of charging, very attractive to millennials. And, trying to do, I'm not sure that the baby boomer clients that frequent our Pentins client bank would transfer to the messaging and the image and the way we charge in Women's Wealth. They don't want that. They like what they've got. But, I think that a new generation of clients are looking for a different way of paying their financial advisors and a different style of communicating with them and a different setup for the relationship. And I think that's why we've ended up with a new brand rather than trying to fit something different in the existing brand. I think the culture of a business is set very early on in the business, and changing culture is hard, very hard. One of the things that I think lots of businesses struggle with is, once you're set up to do things one way, it's really hard to transition that into something else. Sometimes it's easier to start again with a new brand.
So let's talk about starting again with a new brand. So give us the background of how you decided that Women's Wealth was going to be the next thing you do. Reading your bio, it sounds like you went off and did an executive MBA and then came up with all these ideas.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the background story.
And, that going off to do an executive MBA, what a feminine thing to do, it turns out. Apparently, part of my executive MBA was to do a dissertation.
Right.
That's 900 hours of my life I'm never going to get back. But I did. I did this piece of primary research to help me explore the woman's wealth idea. And in this research, it turned out that women are inclined to get exams when they have an idea for a promotion. So they go and get themselves qualified. So they're all super qualified, whereas a man apparently would just pitch up for the promotion and fill in with the exams later on if he gets the job. You know,
sorry, carry on. It's fascinating just because he so much aligns with. We were talking within our business a few weeks ago about just making sure that we are diverse and all that stuff within the business. And one of the things, like one of the research that we landed on, was this idea that a woman would only apply for a job that they are 90, 100% qualified for. A man who apply for they look at a CV and it's like 60% qualified, they will apply for the job. So we were thinking and talking about how do you deal with that. So it's your insight is fascinating.
Yeah. So I did the typically feminine thing. I thought, I know how to run a family-owned lifestyle business working with accountants referring clients. I know how to do that. But do I know how to scale up a business which is going to move the dial for the number of female financial planners in the UK financial planning sector? And the answer was, I don't know how to do that. So I'll go and get a qualification in how to do that. So I got an MBA through Warwick Business School with an entrepreneurial specialism.
Right.
So that I thought I would then know how to do it. Turns out that I should have just got on with it, really. And I loved doing the MBA, and the research has definitely set me up with a lot of information and a very firm foundation in terms of what I'm trying to achieve by making women's wealth an attractive environment for women to come and skill up as planners. And one of the mistakes we make in financial planning is that we think that you can bring somebody into the business. We do it in Pentins. We have apprenticeships running all the time. We bring in 2 new people every 6 months, and we train them. And the idea that somebody is going to learn to be an administrator and then learn to be a power planner, and then at some point when they've got enough technical skill and understanding of how the business operates and products and things like that, that you put them in front of a client and they're going to become advisors. That is nonsense. The people who are really great at financial planning on the power planning side often don't really enjoy the client relationship side. Me, on the other hand, I'll talk to people all day long. I love it. My communication style with clients is very much sought after by some of our clients. But put me in front of a technical report and I will do the housework rather than write the report. I have all sorts of I can't stay focused. I can't concentrate. I'm bored, irritated. By the end of the day, I want to kill somebody because I've had to sit at my desk researching and analysing. Whereas actually, if I can talk to people, I'm very happy. I'm in my element. So it's very much about what skill set you have. How are you going to develop yourself in, recognising your strengths? It's having the right people in the right seats. And the idea that everybody's going to come up through the business learning to be an administrator and a power planner first is just not the way to go. So at Women's Wealth, I deliberately designed a situation where each qualified financial advisor immediately has somebody in meetings with them all the time. And that person is watching, observing, then they start to join in a bit. So, in Women's Wealth, when somebody joins, they'll watch me in meetings and then they'll do half the meetings. They'll do the bits of the meetings that are very routine. So they'll describe to the client the next steps. They'll talk to them about the documents we're going to send them, and things like. And then eventually they start to take over more and more of the meeting. You start to see them building their confidence and their client-facing skills. And and if they don't, it's good to know. It's good to know early on that they don't enjoy that bit. I've got a fantastic lady who started with me as a money mentor right at the beginning of Women's Wealth, But actually this year she decided actually she doesn't like the client stuff. She found out that actually lots of the client meetings are very similar. They all ask the same questions, right? And this was a revelation to her. She suddenly decided that she's much more interesting looking at the performance, measuring performance, looking at the different products that are coming to market and whether they're looking at how this platform compares to that platform, looking at the technicalities of how can we make a report more palatable for a client to read, rather than describing yet again the tax treatment of an ISA to a client. So she's made her decision. She wanted to be promoted into our power planning team, and she now heads that up. So it can go either way, but the important thing is to let people have some experience of both the client-facing work and the power planning work, because there are different things, different skill sets, they're different roles, and they suit different people. And I think Women's Wealth has been set up to encourage people to be in front of clients right from the get-go to see whether that's the bit they like or not.
Fascinating stuff. And your observation about, the fact that often technical people don't move into advice is actually quite spot on, I feel, because, I said earlier in the intro that, only 17% of financial advisors are women, but actually something like 54% of paraplanners are women, right? So if it was the case that actually technical people do move into the advice side, we shouldn't have this sort of unbalanced the gender position that we have in financial advice. So anyway, maybe we'll come back to that, but talk to me about Women's Wealth. What is the business strategy? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do with that business, the business model that you couldn't do with Penton's?
Well, I think the charging structure is the starting point, really. We charge a subscription.
Right.
You can look on the website. It's so it's not actually, it's £85 a month if you earn less than 100 grand a year, or have less than £250,000 worth of assets. And it's £145 a month if you're over those thresholds, because you get into a more complex tax regime and you need exposure to more sophisticated clients with bespoke research once you get over a certain level. But we really wanted to make it like gym membership for your finances. We wanted to make it accessible. In Penton's, I was meeting lots of people, women included, in their sort of 50s and 60s, and thinking, if I'd known you 20 years ago, you'd be so much better off. And I wanted to design a structure that people could use to get independent financial advice in their 40s. And they often aren't already wealthy, so an AUM model doesn't work for those people. So this idea of like gym membership for your finances, a subscription, was on my mind. And then we charge a fixed fee for researching, recommending and arranging products for clients. That's 650 quid a product. Generally, over the lifetime, clients don't leave their IFAs. It is so in Women's Wealth. Even though we have a minimum 2-year membership, which is a kind of a reverse engineered cost of producing a financial plan paid for over 2 years. So even though we have that 2-year minimum membership, even after the 2 years, people don't leave us. They stay, they carry on. And that was an interesting metric because we're only 3 years old. So I've only got that data this year, how many are staying. And it's 88% are staying, even though, it's a subscription basis, not a percentage of assets under management. So that was a good metric to get through and test that it was going to work. And it is working. So if you assume a client over their maybe 30-year lifetime with their IFA is going to have 10 products, I don't think that's unrealistic. If they're paying, if a third of your clients are in the Empower category, the £85, and the rest are in the Enhanced category, the £145. You've got a £450,000 turnover business per money mentor. We call them money mentors once they've got 250 clients. We meet all our clients online. It's all virtual, all over Zoom. And, we launched in 2019. And it was a blessing in disguise that we had chosen our video platform, got our technology all organized, because when the pandemic hit, we just knew how to do online stuff. And, I promise you, I had not seen the pandemic coming. Hands up, didn't. So it was just lucky that we had done all that and we knew how to transition to an online business. But it has always been set up with the intention of being virtual. A lot of that is about effective use of time. A lot of that is because the clients that we're working with don't want to try and find a parking space in the middle of town.
Yeah.
They're going to try and fit their meeting in with you between, I don't know, picking the kids up from school and getting them ready for bed. They're going to just jump on a Zoom call and do what they need to do. So, so it's an online virtual business. You can manage a lot of clients when you haven't got to travel anywhere. And these clients aren't complicated. Lots of IFA businesses, Penton's included, get wrapped up in all sorts of technical stuff. It's really quite hard to keep up to date with and explain, and very complex calculations. Not the Women's Wealth clients. Generally, we're talking to them about which funds their auto-enrollment scheme is invested in and whether that's appropriate, whether leaving the lifestyling switched on or turning it off is appropriate. We're talking about their first ISAs. How long, what is it for? Is it for a deposit in 5 years' time, or is it for the school fees in 10 years' time? Because that makes a big difference to how it's going to be invested. If you're setting things up for the kids, what should you be using? So this is not really complex financial planning. This is helping people navigate the early decision making in the accumulation stage of their financial planning. But you and I've heard you described as the Nigerian numbers ninja. So you and I both know the effects of compound on getting the charging right, getting the investment right for people in their 40s. This makes hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of difference to their eventual pots of wealth that they're going to use to support themselves when they stop working. So this is valuable stuff. And at the cost of 85 quid a month, it's very accessible.
It is indeed, and I was just doing the numbers in my head. I'm gonna muck it up, but I was thinking to myself, 85 quid a month is roughly £1,000 a year, per client, and they get a financial plan for £1,000 a year, reviewed, revisited with a qualified financial planner. Of course, if they're in the enhanced category, that sounds like more like £2,000 a year, £145 a month, £2,000 a year, maybe I don't know, 1,700 a year, something like that. For financial planning, and then over and above that, you have, if there is a product recommendation being done, then you have that sort of fee. So I get your point about 250 clients, £250,000 revenue, which is recurring because most of the clients will stay even beyond the 2-year period. And then is there an AUM overlay on top of that?
No.
Right, interesting.
No, I mean one of the USPs of Women's Wealth is we never take a penny out of your investments. And that's the deal really. Everything that they pay to us as their financial advisor, they pay to us from their bank account. So it's like, but now, I mean, there are some psychological benefits from, ad valorem charging.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah.
And when you charge a client direct, it's very clear what you're doing. So you have to use that as a sales point. You have to use that as a USP. And we do. That's how we pitch for business, and we end up attracting people who are smart enough to have worked out that actually they don't want to be sharing their wealth forever and a day with somebody. They would rather pay for the services they need when they need them. And I do think that although it sounds right now like an unusual business model, and people even say to me, Sam, what are you doing? Like, you could earn so much more if you did it the other way. I think that gravy train is slowing down. And, I've positioned Women's Wealth to benefit from what I see as big trends coming down the track. The move away from ad valorem charging to a more explicit method of charging, and the fact that women have been ignored and underserviced in the financial services industry and in financial planning for a very long time, and they are about to become the major controllers of the wealth. So, if you charge women fairly and you turn up with a proposition that respects them as women, you are in a very nice place to benefit from these two trends, which are actually already in full swing. And Women's Wealth has already taken on its first 150 clients. We're not growing massively quickly because the bit of the business that is growing right now is we're learning to recruit, train and retain money mentors. Now, these are advisors who are generally new to profession. So they're trainee advisors and they work under supervision all the time, but they own the clients. So the financial advisor in the Women's Wealth model is a kind of a supervisor figure who parachutes in and out of relationships, and the money mentors are trained initially as coaches. And I love the book by Dr. Moira Somner's Advice That Sticks. And I think so many financial advice firms don't realize that when they ask a client to cough up all of their financial information, that is a massive ask. Massive. And if you don't help and coach a client through the process of getting together their financial information and delivering it to you, you then turn it into a cash flow model for them and helping them digest and understand the information you're presenting back to them. You don't need a diploma in regulated financial planning to do any of that. And yet it's a massive piece of the workload. And if you don't get that bit right, then everything else that follows is rubbish. So teaching people to do that, to onboard clients effectively, to coach them through the process of learning about themselves as we handle this information and then put it together in a different format and reflect it back to them, helping them learn the language. Because it's like anything, it's all very well the regulators saying to us over and over again, don't use jargon and all. The financial services is wrapped up in jargon. It has its own language. So the best thing you can do for clients is help them understand the language so that they feel fluent going forward. So all of that work is done by money mentors who are trainee financial advisors, leaving the person with the diploma, the expensive plane that you need to keep in the air, covering lots of client relationships, but in a kind of second in command capacity. The clients know their money mentor as the point of contact. That's the person that they would naturally ask a question of. And it's up to the money mentor then to decide whether this is a question that falls into regulated territory or whether it's something they can and will handle as financial coaches. So you're giving each financial planner sort of 12 client-facing heads. And that workload for those clients is shared between one planner and 12 money mentors. Now, you can start to see, surely then, that the costs of regulated financial advice is being diluted quite a lot by having the coaches there handling a lot of the other work. We call them money mentors. They're money mentors rather than coaches because I'm firmly of the opinion that clients, when they come to Women's Wealth, expect the person they speak to have a higher level of knowledge on the subject than they do. And there to be a transfer of experience and knowledge from an expert to a novice. I think that is the relationship that clients are expecting when they come to Women's Wealth, and that's what we're setting up. The money mentors know more, but they maybe don't know as much as the advisor. So it's, it's a shared knowledge process. And of course, the more they work supervised with clients, the more they learn. And my ambition for the business, bearing in mind we're only 3 years old, but my ambition for the business is that once money mentors have trained and qualified and built their own client banks, the thing that women love is to collaborate and share and pass it on. We love being part of a community. And I'm sure that my money mentors will have their own money mentors in the future. And that's how I imagine the business will grow and develop.
Fascinating stuff. So, and I know this is just, it's just the beginning of the process. Talk to me about where you are in each of those phases. So, how many money mentors do you have? How many financial advisors? How long does it take people? Because I assume you are bringing new people into this. How long does it take them to train to actually be money mentors? And then do you take all the exams, the qualifications to become a financial advisor? I'm just trying to understand that structure.
I'm trying at the moment to limit the training to 2 years.
Right.
I hope in the future to be able to offer a less intense, longer version of it. But at the moment, 2 years. Assuming that they have no experience and no qualifications, it's a 2-year journey from start to competent advisor status.
Right.
And obviously that competent advisor status wouldn't probably include, esoteric investments and DB transfers, but it will cover, the basics of being able to handle a client's pension planning requirements, investment requirements, insurance requirements, mortgage requirements, and maybe even having a very basic idea of what their estate plan looks like. Probably not getting into trusts and things,
right.
But, a basic idea. So that journey to be competent to that level, 2 years. Over that period of time, I expect a money mentor when they join to concentrate quite heavily on exams to start with, and their training. We have an academy. Kathy Harrison at the Verve Group helped me build an academy, an online learning platform where our process is already there with videos of meetings happening with clients, all the templates we use, and we work in a very uniform way so that we can help each other. One of the bits of information that came out of my dissertation research is that women very much like to collaborate. We like to be supporters of each other. We don't want to compete with our colleagues and knock them off their perch for the corner office. We actually want to help each other. We want to learn from each other. We want to grow up together. So building that environment is important. And if somebody wants to go off and have a family and take a couple of years out, another money mentor can look after their clients because we work the same way. We share the same values. So, that makes it a very collaborative environment, and women like that. So we work in this uniform way. So it's all documented, it's all templated, it's a plug and play type model. We have a CIP, which I share with Pentins. So Ollie and I work on the CIP twice a year. And most of the clients who are in Women's Wealth, the CIP covers their needs. We rarely have to go off-piste. The only time we do tends to be with VCT stuff where we're topping up. We've met pension limits and things. So the journey 2 years, and during the first year they take on 18 clients. The thing that I have worked out quite painfully over the first 18 months was I'm going to have to provide the leads and the first 18
right. I'm going to come back to that. Right.
Interesting. Yeah. There are a couple of ladies who I'm talking to who have their own communities already.
Right, right.
And they might well be able to hit the deck running and generate their own
Mm-hmm.
clients from their own communities. But when you're taking somebody on who isn't already a finfluencer, or doesn't already have a client bank that they're coaching in another subject or something like that, then they don't know how to generate leads, and it's a whole different skill set. In Women's Wealth, we're very much it's inbound marketing. We have an academy, we have a Women's Wealth network, which is basically an incubator. So clients can go there first free and do some how to start investing courses and watch our podcasts and join in our Ask the Advisor sessions and things like that. So they're taking a step towards Women's Wealth, a step at a time, learning about us, who we are, what we believe in. And then eventually something happens and they jump on a discovery call. So that's how we meet most of our clients. They book online. They can choose a money mentor. They can just randomly book online and end up with whoever they end up with. We've got 4 money mentors at the moment. As I say, my most mature money mentor decided she wanted to be a power planner. So that happened this year. Sifra, she passed her RO6, so she's now regulated. She's got her diploma in regulated financial planning, but she's not cash yet. She's only been with us a year. She's got 24 clients, I think, and she's feeling it. She's living the financial planning life now, really. So she's just deepening and getting some depth and width to her knowledge and experience. I've just taken on 2 new money mentors, and I have someone who helps me with my client load, because I have a few clients through Women's Wealth. Michelle, who went off to be a power planner, Michelle and I built the process. We took on a client a week for a year, and those 50 clients became our template, really, of how to do it.
It's incredible what you've accomplished, in 3 years with a blank sheet of paper. So kudos to you, bringing new people, into the profession, which and in an underrepresented category. The thing I'm trying to get my heads around is how you essentially pay these people when they are joining in that early phase, when they join, before they become I guess qualified advisors. They get skills, and there's a lot of training for them to do of themselves, and then they start to mentor and coach people. How do you pay them and ensure that it's viable economically for you?
Yeah, it's a revenue share.
Right.
So and they do have to convince me before I will take them on that they have enough resources to get through what is going to be a very lean couple of years. Because it's their startup funds. They have to be able to convince me that I reckon that the value of the training we give is around about 65 grand's worth of training.
Wow. Yeah.
It takes 100 hours of supervisor time to get somebody through to CAS. There's then the just the experience of being able to sit in and watch meetings and things, the training academy, the one-to-one time, and then there's the exam coaching. Although we ask them to do the CII modules, we have on the academy, there's coaching for every one of those modules as well. So that package of training with supervision and your competent advisor status at the end is worth a lot of money. But the earnings are 70%. They get to keep 70% of what we take off the clients. 30% belongs to Women's Wealth, the network. When it comes to arranging products, do you remember I said we charge per product?
Yeah.
Well, that fee, the money mentors don't get much of that.
Right. Yes, because
they're not qualified.
Yeah. Right. Understood.
So the financial advisor who is supervising them. So if you've got a dozen money mentors all taking on a client a week, and those clients on average are buying 1.5 products. That's quite a nice revenue for the financial advisor who's supervising those 12 money mentors. Bearing in mind that the supervisor doesn't onboard any of the clients. It's up to the money mentor to brief the advisor and for the advisor to oversee any regulated activity. But actually, there's 12 of them doing that work, and the financial advisor is really in a kind of very much a kind of like a higher level view of the clients, and they're reading the file going, does this make sense? Obviously, they will jump on a call with the money mentor and the client at some point to make sure that this all adds up. But to be honest, they've been supervising them anyway. So they're not so far removed that there's much danger that anything's going to be happening with these clients that the supervising advisor isn't aware of. So it's all a question of how to use the right people's time in the right places. So financial advisors shouldn't be coaching clients. It takes a long time, takes a lot of relationship to be a successful coach with a client. If your skills are at a more technical level and your job is kind of like knowing what the DFM world, the platform world, what the economics and politics are doing to the provision and distribution of product, then are you really the right person to be spending hours talking to a client about how best to behave around achieving their personal goals? Or is that a different skill set for a different person? And I think that's what the model is doing. It's trying to use different people in different seats to deliver a holistic financial planning experience at a better price point.
Fascinating stuff. It sounds to me that the challenge for this model, to scaling this model, is the getting clients through the door.
And that's the easiest bit.
Is
Abraham,
it?
Honestly.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
honestly.
Tell me about that. How does that work? Because I've had this model. I mean, I remember writing an article. I don't know, 2020 or something, 18 maybe. That I titled "Financial Planning for the Cost of Gym Membership." Right.
Yeah.
And there were at the time startups, tech funded, VC funded startups. I'm trying to remember their names in the US, maybe one or two in the UK that were trying to deliver financial planning using technology and some sort of coaching and all these things. The challenge is always that the cost of client acquisition is more than the money that they can make from this thing, especially in the very first couple of months. So I'm fascinated. I'm intrigued to hear how you're going about acquiring clients, bringing clients through the door. Because you see, if you solve that problem, well, that's probably most of the problem. Because you still have challenges around incentivizing people to come into the career. I'm thinking about this as a two-pronged problem, which is, on the one hand, you want to bring women into to access financial advice, the client, and then on the other, you want to bring women, new people, to become financial coaches and financial and these are, to my mind, actually two very, very big problems or challenges. So yeah.
But and I will confess that I'm finding much harder the recruitment, training, and retention of money mentors is much more of a challenge. Maybe because I've got less experience in that arena. But I know how to make financial planning attractive in terms of selling the benefits to clients. I've been doing it for 30 years. I've got lots of experience. And if you couple that with some knowing people who know how to do the kind of digital marketing, bearing in mind that we meet all our clients online, I'm not geographically constrained. So I've got the whole of the UK to go at. I'm niched. We market something called niche, weird. So our niche is women. Our niche is subscription and fixed fee. So that's niche. And then the weird is the particular thing that a money mentor has, which is different to even the other money mentors.
Right.
So, somebody who is into crystal healing and aromatherapy is going to attract a very different client bank to the lady who's actually into rowing on the Thames and jazz. These women attract different clients. So it's about making sure that you're speaking to an audience you can identify with and who are going to get you, and coming at them with a proposition that they both understand and you can clearly demonstrate that they will get value from. And to be honest, if you can do that in any marketing arena, you can attract clients. Bring down the barriers, which women especially find when they're approaching financial services, and that is that nobody looks like them. Nobody speaks a language that they understand. And they feel a level of shame about engaging because they already don't feel they're going to know enough even to have the conversation. So if you can take down those barriers, which we work a lot at doing in Women's Wealth. So they read on our website that no question is a silly question. A question is just a question. It's something you need an answer to. That we understand that women can't make decisions in isolation purely for themselves. That they are relational beings, that everything they do in relation to other people around them. So that, the language isn't about, what do you want for yourself? Because that isn't how women think. Women, they crave security. They absolutely crave security. So it's no good trying to market financial services to a woman on the basis of she will be, what do you want, some status or material ambition. That isn't how her mind works. She just wants to know that she's never going to be worse off than she is now, and that she can move ahead feeling proud of herself, that she's done the right thing by herself and her family. That's what she wants. She's not driven by these big ambitious goals that aspirational financial planning tends to try and motivate people by. So, we talk to women in a language they understand. We're pitched at a level that they can access us without feeling embarrassed or ashamed. It's affordable and nobody else is interested in them. The rest of financial planning is pitching for much bigger fish and still assuming that the decision makers are masculine with these big aspirational goals. So actually nobody's talking to these women. So it's actually quite easy to appeal to them. And we literally, if you Google financial advice for women, have a go right now. We will be there. We'll be the first on the list. So good SEOing, a lack of competition.
You're number one.
Oh, there you go. What did I tell you? So that's how we get our clients.
Do women,
and you can literally book now.
Yeah, I'm going to get myself into trouble. But do women go on the internet to Google financial advice for women?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I hope. Well, I'm banking on it, literally. And we have. I
hope so. Yeah.
We have half a dozen women book a discovery call with us a week.
Oh wow.
So it would seem so. It would seem they are.
Sorry, carry on.
I do wonder how we're going to persuade the women who aren't Googling, financial advice for women, that they need financial advice. But at the moment, there are enough women who have realised they need it, looking for an advisor, for us to just make sure we're present when they're searching.
Isn't that just what you alluded to earlier on? This idea that you are talking to or already bringing in women who have their own communities, So I don't know how this works in real life, but if someone was into what was it that you said?
Crystal healing.
Crystal healing. They probably have communities of
Yes.
other women in that.
Yes.
If someone is onto boat racing on the Thames, they probably meet other people.
Yes, they do.
So I like this idea of the money coaches being people immersed in other communities. I think that is powerful.
We also train our money mentors, Abraham, to deliver. We have 3 basic workshops which are deliverable to female communities.
Right.
So we have one called Financial Wellbeing, one called Habitudes, which is about attitudes and habits, and another one, How to Start Investing. And we get invited to some quite high profile places, Deliveroo, Network Rail, to present to their female communities. There's quite a lot of effort amongst employers at the moment to get people back into the office.
Yes.
So they're presenting some quite high profile events and workshops in office spaces to get people back into the office. So we present those workshops to a lot of female focused communities, and that generates inquiries.
Good stuff. So what do you see in the type of women who become clients? Do they tend to be, I'm going somewhere with this, trust me. Do they tend to be, the women who do normally take natural leadership in the household finances, and therefore they drag their partners along to come to this session and ultimately become clients, or I don't know, or do you end up in scenarios where they're no longer speaking to their husbands or partners, financial planners, and they come to you? I'm just trying to imagine how this works. Or I don't know.
I think we have different clients coming to us for different reasons. We have a podcast called Her Fabulous Financial Future, and if you listen to Mellie's story on that, she says that we gave her the language and the graphs, the numbers, to go and talk to her partner about some difficult stuff that she needed to talk to him about, because they had moved in together into a property he owned. She had a divorce settlement. They both had their own families, and it was like, how are we going to do this? And she had some instinctive concerns, but she didn't know how to articulate them without it getting messy and difficult or insulting even to her partner. So we helped her, to develop a plan, ask for what she needed and wanted for her own financial security and the benefit of her children, and to come up with some suggestions about how they might do it. We've got other ladies who are I think, to be honest, we meet a lot of independently minded female women who have their own earnings, and they're often talking to us about that, it's already been assumed that my career is going under the bus. So, like, how are we going to deal with this as a family? Because I don't want to say, no, I'm not having kids if I have to give up my job. But equally, I don't want to be one of these pension statistics where I've got nothing and everything's in his name. So what should I ask for? How do I do this? And we help them. We help them to build in some resilience and equity into the family financial planning. I'm not sure how well we go down with some of their partners. And then there are those other women that you alluded to who are already basically running the family finances. So they bring the whole family's finances to us, and we meet some gentlemen who are thrilled to be members of Women's Wealth.
I like that.
But there's a lot of those independently minded women who, we're helping them. We're empowering them to ask for what they're worth at work, ask for what they're worth as mothers and as people who are running or expected to run the family home, while his career is promoted
Mm.
And everything is done to enable him and his promotion prospects. And it can be very easy then to forget that half of your promotion prospects as the him belong to her. So that, how do you share that? How do you value that going forward? And we want to be part of those discussions. As I say, not sure we're always popular with the other halves, but I have a number of women, at least 3 that I can think of off the top of my head, who are the main earners. And it is him we are protecting. It's him that we are saying, okay, it's all very well, but you want him to give up his full-time career and handle the childcare because the cost of the childcare is prohibitive to you both continuing to work. But how is he going to be compensated? So it works both ways. We're just big into equitable treatment in a family. And I loved some of the research that I've seen coming out recently. I do love the research, so I will mention who did it. It was Scottish Widows. But they said that when they were speaking to people under the age of 30, so people in their 20s, 3/4 of them imagine that raising a family is a 50-50 joint venture. I mean, that literally changes the face of society going forward. If those numbers play out into the adult working environment, we've got a really different looking stereotype for who's looking after the kids and who's doing the earning going forward if we've got that 50-50 mentality. But most of the people I'm speaking to at the moment who are in an earnings capacity, a decent earnings capacity, there is already this kind of stereotypical image that she will be the carer, the primary carer, and he will be the main owner. And and how do you make that work in a family? And we're good at helping people work that out.
So. It's fascinating, and there's a lot of this that I can relate to. This idea of equity in a relationship. One of the things that I found really I don't know if I say later, but I found was that having two working parents with very, very young children is incredibly hard. It's insanely hard. And so then naturally what tends to happen is one of you is going to put their career on a back burner, so to speak, just to make sure that the family functions. And the way that my wife Fumi and I ultimately walk through this was to say, we're a team. And it should not matter. We stopped using phrases like like if when in periods that perhaps she wasn't working, that we would say, oh, she's not working. No, we say, no, you work in the family, you work within the household. So when I talk about this idea, when I think about this idea of team, we use it, teams, we say, for instance, when it comes to making the household function, you're the striker, I am playing the defense, in that regard. When it comes to the earnings, yes, I am playing the striking, you're the defense. But access and access to all of the financial resources is equal, because otherwise you're going to end up, just I mean, that's what's worked for us. I'm not sure it works for everybody. Everybody has to find their own routine. But when I look at and hear several of these statistics about shortfall that we have in retirement savings for women, shortfall in income or income gap, to my mind, yes, some of those statistics there are issues that we have to solve as a society, but there's a lot that is going on in the way that households are actually sharing their financial resources that doesn't fed through in the stats. But certainly being in a scenario where one partner controls all the earnings, often the men control all the earnings, whilst the other partner takes the burdens of much of the burden of actually looking after the family and making that the household runs. Um, uh, unless there is equity, um, there is pain for for all of us, for the society as a whole. So I'm glad. It's incredible to hear that these are issues that are feeding through in financial planning conversations.
Yeah, very much so. And one of the important things about financial planning, I'm going to say for women, I don't know whether it plays out so much for men, but I do understand it as a characteristic of women, is they really do want to know how other people are doing it. How do I compare? Am I like the others? Am I hopelessly behind? Am I doing okay? They really want to know how they compare. And we encourage this kind of community feeling in Women's Wealth. We have Ask the Advisor sessions, Finance on Friday sessions, where we talk to groups of women. They're all there and they share ideas. And it's quite amazing to see the learning that goes on from one member to another when they start to share in a community environment. So I think that's an important part of anything you create for women.
We're already way over time, which is a proof that I'm enjoying this conversation and this podcast. So, Sam, thank you very much for your time and for your wisdom. But I think we better wrap this up. So,
okay.
Is there anything that you wanted to touch on that we haven't talked about in the conversation?
Well, I just really want a big call out for anybody who's thinking that they might want to transition into the advisor role and they don't know how to do it. Come to the Women's Wealth website, have a look. We're recruiting for another cohort of advisors in the new year. So trainee advisors. So join in, come to one of the webinars and learn a bit more about how we operate and whether the opportunity is right for you or not. And enjoy being part of this beautiful young profession and making it. I love the work you do, Abraham. I think it's so important. I'm a big fan of the independent financial advisor, and I can promise everybody that whatever Women's Wealth turns out to be or not to be, it won't be a distributor or a product provider. It will be a professional services firm. And I hope that we'll be able to do something magical in helping women grow up together as advisors and as investors. So,
Samantha Secomb, thank you very much for your time, for your wisdom, and for all that you're doing to lift the profession. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's show. Massive thanks to my production crew, especially Jake Osha, Melissa Canham, and the entire team. And of course, to our sponsor, Timeline, the market-leading provider of integrated planning technology and model portfolio service to advisors. I do hope you've enjoyed today's show. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us your review there. Until next time, goodbye.